So what is cannabis? It's a plant. Just think of it as a plant. Forget about the politics, forget about the history, it's a plant. There are different types of plants. You may have heard of the names sativas, indicas. There's multiple compounds within this plant, and unique to the plant is these cannabinoids. Cannabinoids mean like in the cannabis of the plant. And there's two major cannabinoids within that. One is called THC, and the other is CBD, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And besides what are the major cannabinoids, there's a whole host of other cannabinoids, and besides that, also other parts of the plant that are also within it. Just as you would say an orange has fiber, has citrus, has vitamin C, and the vitamin C is the main component that's used to, say, treat scurvy, which no longer exists. The cannabis also, as a plant, has a whole number of compounds within it. A lot of them very therapeutic. So we've got terpenes, fatty acids. Linoleic acid, for example, is a component in olive oil, which we all know is very good. So again, plant medicine, and this is derived from the plant itself, distilled down to an oil, and we use that for medicine. So it's really as simple as that, dating back 5,000 years. There's no science behind it. And if you think about what opioids are, where they are now versus where they originated from, it's a poppy seed. But over time, it's been synthesized to become medicine itself. So the cannabinoid system, three main components: the endocannabinoids, the receptors, and the enzymes. So what this means is that we ourselves make our own cannabis in some ways. Endo meaning self or within, cannabis from the plant itself, and noise, that suffix means like or resembling. And so we make our own cannabis, not THC and CBD, obviously, which is of the plant, but anandamide and 2-HG. And what he'll say is the reason why we call it anandamide is this is coming from, he looked through multiple, texts to see what was the right word to describe what the effect was, which was happiness and joy. And he searched combed through the dictionaries of the Jewish dictionaries, the Hebrew, and all that. They had 1,000 words for sorrow and tragedy, but nothing for joy. So he had to go to, Sanskrit to get anandamide. And 2-HG is the other endocannabinoid that we naturally make. We have the receptors, so we have the receptors within our brain and nervous system, which binds to the endocannabinoids we naturally make, and then there's enzymes to make it all work. Again, throughout your brain, your nervous system, multiple organs, which is why, when you have so many different effects, it's because we have receptors on so many different areas. So it's not just one isolated organ, but if you think about how hormones work, we have a lot of tissue cells that receive these hormones, and it's not unlike the endocannabinoid system. So that's what I mentioned as far as the endocannabinoids. Anandamide being one, and then we have the receptors, and the endocannabinoid system is what we describe as the entire system itself. What do the endocannabinoids do? Why do we have this, very sophisticated system? It's a very old system. It's now being learned more about, but we don't even learn about it in medical school. So right now, you already at this point know more than your physicians. So I encourage you to talk to your physicians. Have you heard of the endocannabinoid system? Because all they'll think, not necessarily all, but many will say, well, that's on the street, behind closed doors, I don't touch it, but maybe you need to be woke. All right, so what do the endocannabinoids do? Relax, eat, I don't need that. It's a very relaxing today. Relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. That's the crux of it. That's what it's to maintain homeostasis, to be able to breathe, so that you're not in the middle of Times Square or going down the subway, and remember all those stimuli, every single, thing that might be stressful, and you want to distinguish those memories. You want to be able to, again, not in a bad way, but to be able to just, shelve it. That's also what sleep does. It helps you, shelve it, and so you can restore for the next morning.
So you're saying that the effect of the endocannabinoids we make ourselves.
Correct.
Is what allows us to keep stress at bay.
Correct.
But if we don't have enough endocannabinoids, we need a little help.
I think you can do this job. So this is why it's different from painkillers. We have opioid receptors. Again, also we have receptors in our brains. They're called the mu receptors. And we have this area in our brains, in the brainstem, called the Bott-Ziegler complex. That's where the red highlight is. And that's the reason why you can have overdosing with opioids, is because, in the brainstem, that is the area where you can have respiratory depression, and that can stop your breathing when you overdose. That's why the opioids are so dangerous. Whereas in the same brain, we have receptors, again, different from the mu receptors, different from the opioid receptors, but in the same area, in that area of the brainstem which controls breathing, we don't have any cannabinoid receptors, which is why you can't overdose on cannabis. You can't, there's no withdrawal, there's no tolerance, and there's no physical addiction. I'm not talking about, surrounding people or, mixing things, but by itself, there is no cannabis marijuana-related deaths. And as far as the plant itself, there are various parts. So this is sort of the next step. Again, now we're not only talking about knowing more than your physicians, they're going to know more than the people who are studying, as far as who's involved in the industry. That you have not only the CBD, THC, but with different applications of heat, whether it's raw, whether it's aged, you have different effects, so it changes. So if you think of, say, for example, wine, a fresh, newly opened grape is going to, or wine that you open up is going to be very different aged 20 years, and there is that, there is that change because this is a natural living organism. Okay. So we've had, right now, this is the current map of 33 legal states for medical use and 10 for recreational, or they call it adult use. Including DC. And so as far as what we have also as far as the program goes is that there's a third-party tested, that is independent, and they can actually break down every single component for you. So, and then just as far as I get a lot of questions as far, well, what's hemp and what's cannabis oil? There are differences as far as, hemp being, a byproduct. It's made from mostly the stalks and the roots, the bioaccumulants of the plant. The cannabis oil itself from the flower, which is where the CBD, that's where the medicine is, that's where the power and the medicine therapeutic uses are. So there's different levels of how much CBD is in each. These are the qualifying conditions: chronic pain, cancer, nerve pain, which is neuropathy. PTSD was added to the list 2 years ago, and opioid replacement last year, which is a very big statement as far as using it for not only just pain control, but now opioid addiction. So those who take opioids are not necessarily in pain, but it's the fact that when they try to take themselves off of it, they have withdrawal symptoms. If this is not a prescription that you're receiving, that's, and again, this is also the Department of Health. So now we know, why I prefer to use the word cannabis, the plant itself, not the word marijuana, but it is called the marijuana program, and as of a couple of days ago, there's about 2,300 practitioners who are registered. Not everyone has the experience, so just, ask, do you know someone who, are you, or do you know somebody who is experienced in, recommending cannabis? And, to date, almost 98,000 patients have been certified, and we have a state of almost 20 million people. And if you think about how many people are in chronic pain, they say 1 out of 3 people are in chronic pain. Give you instructions of how to register online with the Department of State. So, with the physician monitoring registry, my name is attached to my patients. So I can see what opioids you're taking. Again, it was used for monitoring purposes, but my name would be attached as the prescriber. And you would receive a card in the mail, or a temporary card in the meantime, and then with that, you can go directly to the dispensary. And these are the purposes that most people, will be trying to manage, which is pain, help with sleep, relax. Exactly what I said about the endocannabinoid system as far as, relaxing, helping, sleeping, eating, and protecting. And so exactly what you had mentioned, well, if we are deficient in our cells for making endocannabinoids, can we take this plant medicine and replace what we are deficient in? We don't have the levels as far as checking the vitamin D level to see if we're up to our minimal, therapeutic level, but I'm hopeful that, in the future we will have those kinds of lab testing, but there's certainly a number of conditions where when you have a deficiency in something, you replace it with medicines, you replace it with, some vitamin, and it's taken care of. So when it comes to if something doesn't make sense, I'm just going to look at this. It's going to be profit, prejudice, and politics. And I always find my answer. When things don't make sense in medicine, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? Navigating here, navigating, and I started very early on, so I figured out every little way around it. And so I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Darrow. That was great, excellent.
Thank you.
Now, our next presentation. What more can I say about this woman? She's a very powerful speaker. The great thing I can say about Martha McDermott, she represents the only women-owned medical marijuana dispensary here in New York. So, let's bring it up. Ms. Martha McDermott.
I'm here representing Etain Health. My position is the Director of Patient and Community Relations. I've been with the company literally around the kitchen table when Amy Peckham and her daughters Hillary and Keely made the decision after attending what's now become quite big and quite famous, the Marijuana Business Expo out in Las Vegas. The genesis of why Amy wanted to do this is her mother suffered with ALS. Does everyone know ALS? Lou Gehrig's disease? Really, really painful, debilitating disease, neurologic disease. Very, very difficult to treat. And those drugs that do exist don't really always titrate very well, or people rather titrate through them rather quickly. And so at the time that her mother was ill, which was well before this was illegal, we were a legalized state, the physician said, if you consider trying cannabis, if you consider trying marijuana, you're going to have to get it illegally, but we do find great results. And her mother said, no way, no how. But Amy, that stayed with Amy. That bothered Amy a whole lot, to know that there was actually something of an organic nature that could be treating her mother, and successfully treating her mother. For 14 years, you may or may not realize, Liz Kruger has been introducing a bill called the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, the MRTA. So you all might want to know that. Take that to your local representatives. To register as a patient, it begins by going to the New York State Department of Health website, where you would find under the medical marijuana program, that's on the bottom of the homepage. So it's New York State DOH, and the bottom of their homepage you see medical marijuana program. Click on that, and then it's going to take you to the big screen, and there's a big purple box that says find a registered physician. So you'll go in and you'll search for Dr. Wong. I'm not allowed to say that, but you search for a physician. They're all organized by county and also in many cases by specialty. So if you're looking for chronic pain, you'll find a pain management group. The Controlled Substances Act was an act initiated under the Nixon administration in the 70s. And at that time, they decided to classify all drugs, whether they were legal or not, under three basic categories: Schedule 1, Schedule 2, and Schedule 3. But I'll say Schedule 1 is illegal, highly addictive, and with no medicinal value. And that's a problem. None of those things work. As Dr. Wong mentioned, it's not addictive, it does have medicinal value, and it is illegal, but there's politics why that happened. And so we're hoping that in this legislative session, there's one bill that's getting traction, and that would be for insurance coverage in all states that are legal. So we are a legal state. And Dr. Wong was correct. Do shop around like anything else. There's an array of experience and as well as general practices out there. It's important that as an educated consumer, you do a little bit of homework. Case, we offer, by now we're up to 6, I'm proud to say, forms of ingestion. The first you might be most familiar with, many people are, vaporization. That's when you take the oil and you put it in an e-cigarette. This is the e-cigarette. I'm going to pass this around. This is rather the vape. I'm going to pass this around. You hold down the button. The heating coil gets activated. You draw the oil over the heating coil. It vaporizes. You inhale, exhale, that's how you would intake. The oil spray has no charging necessity. You would spray it on the inside of your mouth. Those of you who might remember the Banaka blast, it's sort of similar. This is great. It's oral mucosal intake is formed, and it's got a 15 to half an hour, depending on your metabolism, onset, and then a duration of up to about 3 hours. This is the most economic form as far as Etain is concerned. The production of our oral spray is relatively inexpensive, and so powder is also a very economical way of going. So if you buy a vape, you might hold on to the vape for 3 months if you're only using it once a day, and then the rest of the day is covered by your powder. So those are the ways. High CBD, low THC product. It's called Dolce. What to know about Dolce is it's oftentimes associated with muscle relaxation, overall, anxiety reduction. It is the CBD product that we would recommend for people who say, I don't want to get high, I don't want any euphoric side effects. Now, in New York State, you heard earlier about the entourage effect. The reason why, you may ask, okay, well, I can go to Walgreens and I can get CBD for very, very inexpensive. I go online and get it for very, very inexpensive. And we can send it and we can ship it. Why is that? That's because hemp and cannabis are the same botanical family, but hemp has less than 0.03% THC in it. Why does that matter? Well, as Dr. Wong alluded to earlier today, Israeli researchers found back in the 60s that the entourage effect, which is the idea that CBD and THC are agonists, they get each other going. Without CBD present for THC, it's not quite as efficacious. I think they say Marinol is only 20% effective in the hospital. Where without the THC, the CBD is not as effective. It takes a lot of CBD without THC to bring, I've heard something like 500 milligrams. I mean, that's an entire bottle of tincture. So, and it's expensive. So when you have a little bit of THC in there, the differences are enormous. So that's an important thing to walk away from. That's why buying our product with your licensed product, we have up to 1 milligram, just under 1 milligram in our dose range. And that's enough for the federal government to say you gotta have a license. So that's how. The next product I want to talk about is our balance product. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. Roughly 5 milligrams THC, 5 milligrams CBD in all our products. As I was saying, in the tincture, you can have 5 drops for your dosage. So that's 1 milligram of each per drop, if you think about that. So that's kind of a nice way to think about things, typically balance is used for folks who are dealing with chronic pain, but might have, for whatever reason, maybe you work in the daytime, you'd rather your medicine for when you work during the daytime. CBD brings down the euphoric side effects of THC. So it's sort of a well-known thing. If you have a bottle of CBD in your house and you have a little too much THC, it's a good idea to take a drop before you'll feel much better. So this is good for folks who suffer with, say, pain or severe nausea in a cancer treatment, but they don't really want to feel the euphoric side effects. So look at this. Now we found that the 1-to-1 was still too strong for certain people. And so we came out with a product that's now 2-to-1. Thank you. 2 parts CBD to 1 part THC. And that product, we thought the older population was really going to like, because it was the older population that was finding it a little too sensitive. And it turns out it's been a runaway hit with everybody, not just the older folks. So this is possibly going to be our most popular, only matched by the last and not least, Forte. Oh, that's called Mezzo. Sorry, did I tell you balance? Yes. And then there's Mezzo. So now the last but not least is Forte. Forte is high THC, low CBD. We recommend this for our patients who are cannabis familiar. Maybe you've been using it for ever and ever, and you're gonna have a higher tolerance. If you have pain, if you have nausea, if you really need a strong product. Somebody who is terminally ill, for example, might need really a lot of this product. It comes in all the forms that that I showed you earlier. It's strong. So, if you're cannabis inexperienced, we're going to tell you probably shouldn't start with a capsule. You probably want to start with, say, vape or tincture.